Hi guys, and welcome to this video. In this video, in this series, we are looking a bit deeper into the schematic. I was asked to supply a schematic on the solar configuration that I'm using, so I've compiled it for you. However, please note that this schematic is based on my system, which has been custom set to my needs and my requirements, as I tried to explain in video 2 of the series. In video 1, if you recall, we compared a geyser element to a normal resistor, and we did some tests on it on both AC and DC power supplies to confirm that it reacts the same as a resistor does. In part 2, we looked at the theory behind it with some hints and tips on how to customize it to your needs. In part 3, we looked at installing a contactor like this to protect your thermostat from damage. So in the fourth one, we're looking more into the schematic. However, the schematic I did in the second video was not that clear. If you had previous electronic knowledge, you would understand it. However, if you don't, you would get all confused. As one of the things I did, I just drew my panels in a line like this, without proper voltages, polarities, or any more info. So as I say, if you're a solar installer or you've got electronics background, you would immediately know sort of what this implies. However, if you are a person that's struggling, like I did the first time, with people tells you no, you cannot do it because the geyser is AC and your panels are DC, then this will not really help you much. So I'm going to delve a bit deeper into this configuration and its purposes and why it works like that. So let's start with our water tank example. We've got a water tank. The water tank has got a pipe that feeds, say, a water wheel. So as the water drains from the tank, it will spin the wheel. The spool maybe turn a little generator, which then can switch a light on for us. So the water tank will have a level, and the level will have some water in it, which will provide pressure. And as I say, the pressure inside the tank is more than the pressure outside the tank. So it's a difference in pressure, which gives us a difference in potential. And the potential difference is then volts in a power supply. The water flowing through the pipe can do some work for us, so that we compare it to the current or the amps that will be flowing in the wires that will be connecting your system. So we've got volts and amps from our water tank driving the wheel and doing this. The more pressure we have and the more flow we have, the faster we can turn the wheel. So increasing the volts or increasing the amps will increase our speed and make our light shines more brightly. Making the tank bigger like this will not change the pressure, as the pressure is determined by the height of our liquid. This is as each drop of water that's on top of another drop will add more weight. So the more drops you have in a line, the more weight they will have, and the weight then gives us more pressure. So having more drops here will not increase the pressure, as they will be pushing down on the edge of the drum or of the tank, whatever. So that is our only line of pressure. So having a bigger tank is like having a bigger battery. You've got more capacity as you've got more liquid in it. However, this is 1.2 volts. This is also 1.2 volts. So are these. They're all 1.2 volts. So the small one will be a little tank like this. This will be a tank that's slightly bigger. This will be a bigger tank, and then this will be a massive tank like that. All of them, unfortunately, is 1.2 volts. despite the size difference. See, 1.2 volts. So over this one is 2500 milliamp hours, so that is capacity. This one is 1.6, that's 1600 milliamp hours. This one is 550 milliamp hours, and this one, despite the size, is only 300 milliamp hours, although it's bigger than that one. It's got to do with the chemical composition inside. So as you can see, the potential difference in this example is done by the pressure. The pressure is changed by the vertical height or the vertical weight of all the drops that's above here. Now that we've got the basics of our potential difference, which is our volts, which has got to do with the level, and we have our flow, let's go to the next phase. Now suppose we have 2 or 3 tanks next to each other. Each one have the same level. Let's say each one has our 5 drops of water. So all of them will have the same pressure, so the voltage between all of them will be equal. So this is 1, 2 and 3. V1 equal V2 equal V3, as the pressure in all of them is the same. If we have the same restrictor in each one to limit them to a certain flow, like this one 2500 or this one 1600, then we can go to the next phase. So in this case, let's limit it, let's say, to 1 drop of water per second. So now when it's flowing, we'll have 1 drop going down each second in each one of these. So now let's combine all of these and make it all flow into one big pipe. So in this case, this one is flowing, this one and this one, and each one is delivering 1 drop per second. So after the first second, you'll have 1 drop going into the big pipe. A second later, another drop of each going into the pipe. A second later, another drop of each. So although these are each just 1 per second, over here we will have 3 drops per second. So these tanks are now connected in parallel. So when you connect them in parallel, the voltage stays the same, however the flow gets added together, as you can see here. So if we can replace these with batteries, we will have our battery, our next battery, minus here, plus there, minus here, plus minus, and all the pluses are connected together. And here we have our item that we want to power, which can be a auxiliary element or anything else like this. So if you would have a voltmeter connected over here, it would register 1.2 volt if each one of these is 1.2 volt cells. Like in this case, 3 of these, then you would have 1.2 volt. However, if we look at this example with 1600 milliamp, if this one is producing 1600 milliamps and this one is also doing 1600, then over here we'll have 3200, and if you add this one's 1600 as well, over here we will then have 4800 milliamps. So by connecting them in parallel, our voltage stays the same, but we boost our current. If you would now add another resistor in parallel to this one again, so we're back to parallel again, then over here the current would split up between these two lines. So if this one is 2400, then this one will then be, for at least 4, also 2400. So just like adding on this side, here we subtract to split them up. This is the basic DC circuit, but you get the idea. So if we look at our power equation from the second video, and if you remember, this triangle with power, volts and amps, power then is equal to volts multiplied by amps. In this case we increase our amps, the volts stays the same, but now we can also increase our current if the amp increases, our power. So when the current increases, the power increases, and we can get more work done. However, as you can see, only increasing one. So let's look at the next phase. We take our tanks and reconfigure them. So we got our first tank like this, with a pipe feeding the second tank, feeding the third tank like this, and we have our 5 drops in each. In all these examples we're ignoring water in the pipe just for simplicity. So now we've got 5 here, 5 there, 5 there. But now this one is actually on top of that one if you look at this. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will be a weight of 6, whatever, 7, 8, 9, 10. So when we put them in series like this, or in a line like this, we can actually add the potential, because now, as we said in the previous example, when we have our tank, when we increase the level, we increase the pressure. So here we increase the level, increase the pressure, and we'll have more potential. So if these were then 1.2 volts, that will be a 1.2, that will then be 2.4, and that will then be 3.6 volts combined. So by stacking them in series, we actually increase the voltage. However, our current is still limited by whatever is on here, which is the little restrictor here. So this part will then still be 1 drop per second if we use the same example as previously. However, we've got more potential but the same current. So in this case, P equals I times V. Our V increases, I stays the same drop per second, so of course our power increases. So in the example of the solar panel, you will see I actually combine series and parallel so that we can increase both. Another quick thing to look at is this one is 2500, this is 1600. So if this would have a restrictor in it, this not, so this will be 1 per second, this will be 2 per second. However, we're going to be limited to the smallest one, speed, because no matter how fast this one is, if this one was still limited to 1.2. So combining different size batteries together doesn't help you, as you will be limited to the weakest one's maximum power it can deliver, maximum amps. Sorry. That's why it's always a bad idea to mix old and new cells or different size cells in the same circuit, as you'll be stuck with the weakest link that will limit the usage of the system. So now let's look at our solar system from before. We've got our first panel. Let's draw it as a battery, as your solar panel has also got a negative and a positive side. Let's connect our next panel, the positive, negative, and as you say, they're in series. The positive of the one goes to the negative of the other one. We do the same here, negative, positive, and another one, and another one, and another one. This side we do the same thing. Like this. So we have another set in series, also the same configuration, minus plus, minus plus, minus plus, minus plus, minus plus, minus plus. These will then go to our solar system, the MPPT, and then these gets connected together, and that goes also to the MPPT. So we'll have a minus here and a plus that side. My solar unit is rated at 350 volts if I remember correctly, maximum. So having 6 panels, that is 50 volts at no load, will mean I will only be delivering or 300 volts into the system, which is well within its capacity, and I won't risk damaging it. My cells are rated at 50 volts without load and 40 volts at full load. At full load it can deliver 10 amps. So when we're not drawing a lot of current, the voltage will increase. So at 0 amps it will be 50, so we can assume at 5 amps we'll be on 45 volts. As we draw more current, it limits the output of these things. But then what we did was we connected these like this. So now we have this whole bank in series, but these two portions in parallel, and these would then go to our geyser with our relay, and of course our switch to switch between our panels and our local supply lines. So with this we can switch between our DC panels or our AC supply in case we need to as a backup. And this then is this unit. So by connecting it like this, we've got 4 panels, which means the maximum we'll get out of the system will then be 200 volts, which is good because our element is rated at 230 volts. So we'll be underpowering it a little bit, which means our water will take a couple minutes longer to heat up than it would have, which is not a problem as we're not paying for it, it's free, sort of. Having them in parallel like this allows us more current and more voltage. So in this case, power equals I times V. We increasing the current, so our current goes up. We're increasing the voltage, having them in series, so that goes up. So of course now we've got a much better gain in our power. So increasing both the voltage by putting them in series and the current by having a parallel circuit, we get a nice big gain on our power, which makes our system much more versatile and flexible. In our video 2, I think we calculated we will be running about 6 amps under full load. So if each string can develop 10 amps and 10 amps there, we'll be drawing 3 amps here and 3 amps here, which will leave us with 7 amps available on each of these lines to power the rest of the house. And of course, once the geyser reaches temperature, it will switch off. This will become 0, and then we'll have the full 10 amps available to power the house at 300 volts. And that is the theory behind the circuit. So in our circuit, we've got our solar array consisting of 4 panels in series and another 4 panels in series, which are then paralleled. So for series, positives and negatives are connected together, while for parallel the positives are connected together like this, and this will power our geyser. We've got our contactor, here we have our thermostat, here we then have our switch over, which will switch between there and there, and then we have our remainder of the set, which we're going to just parallel like that for this example, powering our solar unit, which will then supply our house with electricity. Then from our DB we will then have a 220 volt line or a live, which will then go through a safety fuse or a breaker to the coil, to the switch, and then with our neutral line back to the house. So when the geyser is cold, the thermostat will close. It will allow the 220 volt supply to flow through the circuits, which will activate this unit. This will close, and the power from the solar panels will then heat up the geyser. Once the geyser is hot, this will open up again. It will cut the power here. This will open again, the geyser will switch off, and then all the power will just bypass this and go directly to the MPPT. If you are in a country that's running on 100 volts, then your element will have a lower resistance than ours. So in your case, you will need a lot more current, as you are limited to either 100 volts or 110 volts. So with the panels I'm using, 2 panels will already give us our 100 volts when connected in series. So in your case, that's why in the second video I show that we actually add a couple of more panels in parallel. So parallel, we connect the pluses together and the negatives together, and this will then go to the switch and then to your water heater. In your case, you just need to do the math to determine how many panels you will need to warm your water and power your house. If you're only warming your water, then you can match the panels with the kilowatt rating of your geyser. So if you want a 2 kilowatt geyser, you will need 4 panels. If they are 500 watts, that's 4 times 500 watt will give you your 2000 watt that you need to heat up your geyser. If you want extra or to power the rest of your house, you add more panels, which will then from here go to your solar controller, which will then power the house. However, since you've got the lower voltage, you will need a lot more current. Remember, because P equals I times V. Since your voltage is low, you'll have to increase the current in order to increase the power that the system can deliver for your needs. So that's why on 100 volt supplies we have more parallel configurations, while on bigger supplies where we can run more, you'll have a more series and parallel combinations to give us the power we need. I hope this helps you understand series and parallel connections a bit better, and why we have got the series parallel connection in my circuit. And that's it for today. Please have a great day, take care of yourself and stay safe out there, and lots of luck when doing your own system. Thank you and bye bye.